And first, I express my sincere thanks to Shri Nagaraj ji and the Indica team for giving me an opportunity to participate in this conference. My paper is, in fact, will be the theoretical background of all the papers, all the subjects that have been presented so far. That is the sense. From yesterday we have been hearing papers on the practical worship of Shakti, how it plays in different role in the religious and cultural life of our motherland. So my paper is going to touch on the theoretical background, how it has been viewed, interpreted in the one of the earliest systems of our country, namely the Shiva system. The Shiva system is a vast subject in the sense it includes different subsystems, and to name a few which you have been with which you are familiar: Shiva system, Shiva, Pashupata, and the Pratyabhijna, and the Kala Mukha and other systems, varieties. Due to various historical reasons, two systems of the Shiva school stand out till today. They have survived more than 2 millenniums, I should say. One is the Shiva Siddhanta system, and the other one is Pashupata system. The Pashupata, in fact, is the earlier one of before the Shiva system, Shiva Siddhanta one. The somewhat known and much studied the Pratyabhijna system, which is erroneously called Kashmir Shaivism, and the scholars, it is better not to use the word Kashmir Shaivism. It is Pratyabhijna system, which Abhinavagupta himself says. In fact, much more clearer one is a Triga system. This is a later development, later in the sense from 9th to 10th century. But before that, a long development of Shiva Siddhanta from as far as early as 4th to 5th century, we can say. There are texts, there are Shiva Acharyas who have composed these texts based on the Shiva Agamas. Again, Agama is the basis of all these Shiva system. In fact, Pashupata system also had Agamas. Unfortunately, due to our lack of our tapas, it has all been completely lost, unfortunately. But in another way, Shiva is so graceful to us. He has given us the 28 Shiva Siddhanta Agamas, which are still available now. Though some portions are lost, all the 28 Shiva Agamas and the literature based on the Agamas are available. And I should be as Nagaraji has made me told that I am not a great scholar, but I am fortunate in that I am working in the French Institute for more than 3 decades, where the French Institute holds the largest number of Shiva manuscripts in the world, and it is a UNESCO Memory of the World Heritage Register, Shiva manuscripts of Pondicherry. So I am, to use the word used by the Mahendranath Gupta while describing Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he says, I am an insignificant man, but I stand by an ocean. In the same way, I am an insignificant man, but I work in the French Institute, which is also on the side of the ocean. From that, I give a few points. For this conference, where the Shakti is the main theme, Shakti and Shiva, the two in one of Shaivism, that is the view of the Shiva view. So I just read out, I could not prepare the PPT, so I just read out the paper, and later, if there are some doubts and questions, you can post me, time permits. The feminine principle in the Sanatana Dharma is so well established and is at the base of the mundane and religious life. The feminine principle of the universe, aptly called Shakti by our ancient sages, is the potential power of the Supreme Lord, and which plays an immense role in all the creations of the universe, is well taught in the Upanishads. The first one is the the personification of Shakti is the Kena Upanishad, where Uma Haimavati is the Shiva appearing as, though it was not explicitly stated as Shiva, the Yaksha, an unknown figure, where Indra, Vayu, Agni, they could not make it out, and Uma Haimavati is the goddess appears before them and tells them, because of this Yaksha, Yaksha is an unknown figure, because of whose power all of you are so powerful. So that is the personification with a name. But in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad we see that te dhyana yoganugata apashyan devatma shaktim swagunair nigudham yaha karanani nikhilani tani kalatma yuktani adhitishtati ekaha. So the entire universe is inside is full of Shakti, Devatma Shakti, Nigudham, it is concealed. And in fact, then it doesn't stop with that. Next line says, Yaha Kalatma Yuktani Nikhilani Adhitishtati. So he is the controlling. So Shiva is naturally the controller of that Shakti. And what we have to see here is the first conception of the Shakti in the so much we have in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad as the Shakti behind the universe, who conceals everything, who includes everything of the universe in her, but she is concealed. And we have this in the common daily, our mundane life, we have this Grihini, Griham Uchyate. I have stated how this concept, Grihini, the Shakti, the female principle is so important. This is all there. Then we have the Dharma Shastras also. It is accepted that only when when the man marries and becomes united with a woman, he starts constructing a house. So all these are in the Dharma Shastras. Then we have the famous Raghuvamsha passage, Prajaye Griha Medhinam. So the Raghu, the kings, they married in order to get progeny. So the life becomes fulfilled. Only the man united, becomes joined with the woman. So in that way, it is the common one. Then Jagata Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwarau, the famous Kalidasa's one. It is typical of that. And the Shiva and Shakti are the Pitara. They are the parents, father and mother of the entire universe. This it's a digression, but it is a more we can talk about this in the Tamil Nadu Shaiva Siddhanta development, especially the Tevaram hymns. You can see that Shakti, the Devi, Parvati is viewed as the mother. In fact, Manikavachakar says, so in fact, Parvati is the lady who has given birth to all of us. So she is the mother. So this concept is very much there in the Tevaram, and they have sung the glory of the mother and Parvati, always with Shiva, along with Shiva. Now, coming to the theoretical one, philosophical one in the Shaiva Siddhanta system, I have chosen a few agamas, which is generally not much studied, known, and how, because I can develop further, but here I want to just place before you how some of the Shaiva agamas conceive Shakti in their own way, which is the background of the later development of all the Pratyabhijna, entire Pratyabhijna system, and in fact I should say that the Shakta systems also. The Mrigendra Agama. So there are 28 agamas, to be brief, 28 agamas which are called Moola agamas in the Shaiva Siddhanta system. And these agamas were revealed by Shiva in the form of Shrikantha to various gods, then to various sages, then come down to us. So this is how we have received the agamas. The Mrigendra Agama speaks of Shakti as the body of Shiva. As Shiva performs all acts through his Shakti, she is conceived to be his body. So in the Mrigendra Agama we say it is Shiva, in fact, performs all his actions through Shakti Sharira. References are given below. As already stated, Shiva is said to possess the power of knowledge and action, Dhritkriya Shakti. To these is added another one, is power of volition, Icha Shakti. And accordingly, Shiva is accompanied by three powers, Shakti Traya Yuta. Since Shiva is non-different from his Shakti, whatever act he is said to perform is in fact the act of his Shakti. The dualistic schools of Shaiva Siddhanta, it is dualistic in the sense there is the individual self, which are called Pashu, or the bound level. They become, all the bondage are released, but they do not become one with Shiva or merge with Shiva. They exist separately as similar to Shiva. It is called Shiva Samavada. So that is the earliest conception of the individual self in the moksha stage. So that is why it is called dualistic. The dualism is maintained throughout. So, but the individual self, it has got possesses all the Shakti of Shiva, but it is covered not due to Maya, but covered due to the Mala, which is innate to the Pashu, innate to the self. It is called Anava Mala. Here Anu stands for the Pashu. So Anava Mala, the Mala, the impurity that covers the Shivatva, innate Shivatva of the individual self. It is in fact it is a dravya, they call it. It is an object. It can be removed only by the Acharya's Diksha. So then it goes. So the dualistic schools of Shaiva Siddhanta, to which some of the earliest Shaiva Acharya Sadyas, Sadhyo Jyoti, Ramakantha and Aghora Shiva belong, holds that as the Supreme Shiva is partless and formless, so also his Shakti, who is non-different from him, cannot evolve into the world of name and form. This is another important notion, point of view. Shiva, and through his Shakti, performs all his act. But Shakti does not become the world, because Shakti is a conscious principle. The world is a matter. It is a inert matter. So a conscious principle cannot become a inert matter. So for that they have this Maya Shakti, Maya only. But Shiva, since creation is done by Shiva, Maya is conceived as a form of Shakti, which is called Parigraha Shakti. So he takes it for that purpose, creates the world, and during the Laya, that is dissolution, Maya also exists. Maya doesn't get obliterated, they can destroyed. So the Maya is one of the three material principles. There is another one called Bindu, which is called Mahamaya. So all the worlds are created, material world is created through Maya by Shiva. For if Shakti, the power of Shiva, modifies itself, then it becomes liable to destruction, which view is untenable. So a separate category called Shiva Tattva, inclusive of Shakti Tattva, as part of the category of Tattvas, it is Tattva, Sankhya, and different from Supreme Shiva, who is beyond the Tattvas, Tattva-atita, and hence beyond the categorization, is posited. So accordingly, Shiva Tattva is explained as the very first moment of awakening, a form of seeing of the overlord when the desire for creation arises in him. But philosophers of non-Siddhantika affiliation like Sri Kumara and others do not differentiate between Shakti and Shakti Tattva. So that is other variations. Then another point is Shaiva Siddhanta holds that the self, individual self, the self-same power that conceals the real nature of the self, namely the individual self. As I told you, the individual self also possesses the power of Shiva. Dhritkriya Shakti is possesses like Shiva, but it is concealed by the Mala. That is called, the concealment is effected by Shiva through his another Shakti called Tirodhana Shakti, which covers. Tirodhana means covering. So the same Tirodhana Shakti, when the Mala becomes ripe and the initiation Diksha has been performed due to various spiritual practices, that Tirodhana Shakti transfers herself into Anugraha Shakti. Through that Anugraha Shakti's Anugraha, the individual self realizes his Shivatva. So in order to experience the limitations and also to experience the Shivatva, Shakti is required. These are all the powers of Shakti. One is Tirodhana Shakti, another is Anugraha Shakti. But they are not different. One becomes, the one changes into another at the level of higher level. So Shakti plays such a crucial role in all these acts for creation of the world also to Shiva and for the individual self also. Then concept of Shakti in the Raurava Agama, another one of the 28 Agamas. In the Raurava Agama, we get a very brief explanation about Shakti. First, Shakti is the supreme desire of Shiva by the force of which the samsara, transmigratory world created by Shiva is held. So we have seen that Shiva is inseparable from his Shakti and performs all his acts with Shakti as his instrument. Mrigendra Agama says, Karanam na Shaktiyanyat. Shiva doesn't possess any other instrument than Shakti. Only through his Shakti he creates the world, performs all acts. Not only the world creation, but also the Anugraha to the individual self. So everything is performed by Shiva through his Shakti. Shakti serves as his body as well as his instrument, Karanam. Then, this is what the question. Then Icha, Kriya, Jnana, they are all there. Then this is the philosophical level. Then at the how it gets transformed into the religious, the actual worship, the upasana level that is given in the other texts, where I will state that, give you just an example. And before that, another aspect of Shakti in the Vatula Agama, another Agama. The Vatula Agama gives more importance to the concept of Shakti. We have in this, in the Vatula Shuddhakya, a portion of it, the genesis of Shakti in the form of the world creation. So I just read out how it conceives 5 aspects of Shakti: Adi Shakti, Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti, and Shakti at the beginning. So Tachivetu Parashaktihi Sahasramshatu Jayate Tachakte Sahasramshat Adi Shaktehe Samudbhavaha. From Shiva there is a portion, 1,000th portion of Shiva becomes Adi Shakti. Then from that Adi Shakti, 1,000th portion becomes Parashakti. Then Icha Shakti, then Kriya Shakti. So each one 1,000th portion of the previous one. In this way, through this Shakti, the entire world is created. A clearer presentation of the creation of the world in the Vatulagama. Then Shakti as Sandhya. In the daily worship of Shaivas, Dikshitas, there is Sandhya worship is there. And there are 4 Sandhyas: morning, early morning, noon, evening, and midnight. So the Sandhya, what is the relationship between, because Sandhya is also viewed as a form of Shakti. The ritual scheme of the Shaivagamas are threefold: Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya. So the very first obligatory rite that is performed in the morning, also in the noon as well as in the evening, by a Shaiva is the worship of Sandhya. The Sandhya is conceived and visualized as another form of the Supreme Shakti goddess, non-different from Shiva, and she is given water oblations, arghya, etc., with flowers. In the Shiva Puja Sava of Jnana Shambhu, which is composed in the 12th century, he says, Ekaiva Artataha Isha Shaktihi Amita Ya Aneka Rupa Shiva Kalopadhi Vashat Dvijaha Anudinam Brahmyadi Rupena Tam Dhyayanti Atratu Nirmala Atma Shivayoho Sandhischa Shaivi Para. So the same Shakti is viewed by the initiated Dikshitas as Pratha Sandhya, Madhyaniki Sandhya, and Sayam Sandhya. And the same Shakti is viewed and she is worshipped. And the final one is the midnight, where Shiva and Shakti, Shivayoho Sandhi is the supreme one. Then Shakti in the Shiva Puja. It will be very irony may seem to be an irony, or may be curious to you to know that in the Shiva Puja given in the Agamas and which is followed now, there is no separate worship of Shakti. Shakti plays such a fundamental role, but Shakti is never worshipped as a separate deity in the daily scheme of Shiva worship. For the Shiva Linga, the Bana is it's called the Ling Shiva, the Peetham is Shakti. So they are always united. Peetham, Bana, Peetham Shakti Rudakritam. So the Peetha is the Shakti. So it is Shakti is the basis of Shiva, and so there is no separate worship. So the Peetha is worshipped. It is called Peetha Shakti. And I will tell you more. The general outline of Shiva Puja is, for the most part, resembles that of the. Yes, before that there is a Surya Puja. I will come to that. In the daily Shiva Puja, before commencing the Shiva Puja, there is a Surya Puja. It is called Shiva Surya Puja. So Surya is viewed as the Pratyaksha, this actual form of Shiva. And Surya is worshipped. That is the obligatory one. And in the Surya Puja, which is also modeled on the Shiva Puja, there are 9 Shaktis on the Peetha. They are Deepta, Sukshma, Ruja, Bhadra, Vibhuti, Vimala, Amogha, Vidyuta and Sarvatomukhi. So they are worshipped on the lotus, the center of which Shiva is there, and the Karnika, the stamens, these 9 Shaktis are worshipped. So here also, even the Shiva Surya Puja also, Shakti plays a role. Shakti is worshipped, then only Surya is worshipped. Then Shiva Puja. Without going into the details, we can highlight some important points. Shiva Puja consists of 5 purifications. Pancha Shuddhi, namely Bhuta Shuddhi, Sthana Shuddhi, Dravya Shuddhi and Mantra Shuddhi and Linga Shuddhi. So in the Sthana Shuddhi, at the Sthana Shuddhi level, the place where he sits, it is the worshipped as the he himself worships Shakti Mandala. So he is Shakti Jala. He is first commencing the puja. He conceives himself as he is sitting at the midst of web of Shakti, Shakti Jala, Shakti web. Then after that, after all those preliminary rites, the Shiva worship starts. There, Shaktiyadi Shaktiyantam is the technical one. So at the base is Adhara Shakti. In the main worship of Shiva, the asana over which Shiva is visualized to be seated and worshipped consists of the Adhara Shakti at the base, and on the top of it is Shuddha Vidya, another Shakti, and over that Manonmani Shakti. So Shiva is inseparable from Shakti. That is the philosophical view. How this is transformed into the daily puja is the very, very, very base, very asana is Shiva. Adhara Shakti. Not only that, then next one. So because it is a lotus, Shiva is worshipped at the midst of a lotus. And the stamens are all 8 Shaktis. As we have seen in the Surya Puja, there are, in the Shiva Puja also, there are Vama, Jyeshtha, etc. 8 Shaktis. Then Adhara Shakti, then Manonmani, over which Shiva stands. So in this way, Shakti stands so much inseparable from both in the philosophy as well as in the religious practice of the Shaiva Siddhanta. And yes, so Shakti Vama, Jyeshtha, Raudri, Kali, Kalavikarani, Balavikarani, Balapramathani and Sarvabhuta Damani are visualized and worshipped. On the pericarp, Manonmani, the Shakti of Sadashiva is visualized, worshipped. At the center of the pericarp, there is the Kutila Shakti, then the worship of all those things are there. And we have this, on top of the 3 Sadashiva, there is other forms of Kalas. Similarly, Shiva possesses the powers. They is technically known as Kala. Ashtatrimshat Kala is the full power of Shiva. He possesses 38 Kalas and 5 faces. Isha, Satpurusha, Aghora, Vama, Sadyojata. Each face has different number of Kalas, totally 38. All those Kalas are to be the nyasa should be performed by the worshipper on himself. Because the basic notion of Shaiva system is, any Shaiva system is, na Shivaha Shivam archayet. Anybody without Shiva cannot become Shiva, cannot worship Shiva. So one has to become Shiva first oneself. One has to become that is, he has to enact the entire Shiva's Shakti on himself, visualize himself to be Shiva. Then he worships from his heart. He brings it out to the on the lotus and on the Pitha. Then he worships. Then he take it back to in his heart. So this is the basic of worship. So in order to become Shiva, he has to do the Ashtatrimshat Kalanyasa on himself and Ashtatrimshat Kalanyasa on the Linga also. So in the Ashtatrimshat Kalanyasa, it consists of the, we can see in the text, Shakti, one name of the Shakti, and immediately name of Shiva, another form of Shiva. Shashini, Angada, Marichika, Jvalini, etc. So, Shashini, Shakti, then we have the another name of Shiva. So, he is always combined, inseparable from his Shiva. Even the Kalas also, they are Shiva Shakti Yuta, Shiva Shakti Sahita. It is a long one, just giving you the basic one. Evam Syat Shakta Vigraha. So, he says the Shakta Vigraha, the worshipper becomes a He performs all the nyasa into himself to be Shiva, but kinetically he is a Shakta Vigraha. He possesses all the Shakti, his entire form is Shakti. Evam Shakta Vigraha. Shaktena Anena Sakalo Vigneyo Nishkala Shiva. So just as Shiva, he possesses all the powers, he also possesses and he conceives. This is the daily, he has to do this. So by the repeated daily practice of visualizing himself to be Shiva, he attains Shivatva finally. So even in the act of worship, in the ritual of worship, this is to be enacted, conceived, this should be borne in mind. So the text regularly inculcates again and again and again and again in all the rituals, this in the Nyasa, in the Pitha, etc. Everywhere the Shakti such a plays a prominent, I should not say prominent, much more than a fundamental role. And this, I think we can. One more point. Okay, one more. Just one point in the. This is in the puja of the house. Now in the temple. So I am not speaking about the separate shrine, Sannidhi for Shakti. That is another different one. But in the Makuta Agama, one of the 28 Agamas, the entire structure of the temple, it is called Vimanam. Vimana means the Garbhagraha, the entire structure is called, technically, in the Agamas it is called Vimana. And the Vimanas are divided into 3 broad divisions, Nagara, Vesara and Dravida. So Makutagama says that in the process it deals elaborately with many points concerning the structure of the temple. After giving out a list of Vimanas and Lingas with various forms and various names, corresponding names, the text deals with various Shaktis and their place on the different parts of the Vimana. The text goes like this. Shaktinam sthanam uchyate. Adharakhyam adhishtanam adishakti swarupakam, and it goes further. Jagati bhuta shaktistu kumudam gunashaktikam. So there are the from the adhishtana, the base to the top, there are 8 parts, sometimes 9 parts. Each part is known as adhishtana, kumuda, pattika, urdhva pattika, and at each level there is a Shakti. It gives out the name of the Shakti. So outwardly, so basically we can say that the Shaiva Siddhanta, Shiva is at the top, but he performs, manifests everything through his Shakti Sharira. So just as I told you, he becomes Shakti Sharira and creates the world and Anugraha to the individual self. In the same way, the Vimana, the temple also viewed as form of Shakti, and at each level there are different Shaktis. These are all some of the important points I should develop. These are some hints I have given. There are much more developments which I have to do and elaborate it. Yes. in the words of Makutagama, I can conclude, Ittam Shaktyatmakam Dhama Proktam Sakala Rupakam. You have to note that Shaktyatmakam Dhama. Dhama means the house. Here the house of Shiva. So entire Vimana, entire temple is Shaktyatmakam. So very important point to be noted. So this agama, the theoretical level, and then at the practical level, at the religious, at the ritual level, then at the temple, everywhere, we cannot think of anything other than this, other than Shakti. Such is the conception of Shakti in the Shiva Siddhanta system. Just to conclude before that, the Pratyabhijna system gives such a importance, in fact a little bit more importance to Shakti in the sense, but it never misses the point that Shiva is at the top. But Shiva, Shakti, Aikya, the Shakti is very important, everything. And the Lalita, the Sri Vidya tradition, all is fully based on the Pratyabhijna system initially. Later in the 16th, 17th century, through Lalita Sahasranama and Bhaskara Raya's commentary, it has become an Advaita Vedanta way it has been interpreted. But still, the basis of Sri Vidya system is Pratyabhijna one system. So Pratyabhijna is, this Shaiva Siddhanta is the earlier one. So I should say, from my reading, from my experience, seeing the different type of texts, Shaiva Siddhanta is the earliest form of a philosophy of Shaivism, and it is the basis for later development of Shakta systems also, including Pratyabhijna. So Pratyabhijna, Abhinava Gupta quotes from some of the Shaiva Agamas, Shaiva Acharyas approvingly. So this is the basis at the background. But due to various reasons, it is not much known. And by Shiva's Anugraha, I am planning to write more on this, to explain more on these topics soon in the coming years. And with this, I thank you one and all for your patient hearing. Namaste.
So thank you so much for your wonderful overview. I just have one small question. You mentioned about the 38 kalas.
30.
So is there any connection between this and the Janashashti kala which we are reading about, or is it completely different?
Shakti Kala in which context?
64 arts?
No. Yes. Because Kala has a different connotations. Kala generally known as a form of art. But here Kala stands for the power of Shiva. Kala is one of the principles through which the world creation starts at the beginning, early level. And Kala also stands for Shiva's powers, one of the powers.
So that is also shown through Shiva's Nritya.
No, these are all, of course, it is there. But here in this concept, it is purely a philosophical one, which is the basis for.
What about Chandra Kala and 116th or something they say, no? Chandra Kala also. It's the same thing?
Yes, 116. These are all for the calculations, and because Kala stands for part.
That's what.
Part. Kala stands for Shakti. So many meanings for Kala is there.
No, I was going to ask you, is this Shiva worship that you're telling is for the homes or for the things so when they do the pujas that they don't worship Shakti, right? So you clarify that.
Yes.
And another thing is when we go into a temple, Shiva temple, and see the Vimana now,
Shakti.
it's going to be definitely different.
Yes.
Because there are
Different levels of Shakti. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and the Shakti shrine, even if you see the early Shiva temples, they were all added in the 9th, 10th century. The earliest Shiva temple does not consist of any separate Shakti shrine. It is. You can see it in the Mamallapuram and other places. Only Shakti, especially in the Kanchipuram also, there is no separate Shakti. That is given a different interpretation now, because all Shakti reside in Kamakshi, and Kamakshi is the one. That is very, very late one. But originally, Shiva temple in the Agama consists of only Shiva. But Lingam Pita.
Sir, I would like to share a little incident in which our ancestral temple, which is over 500 years old, and there was a Shakti peak. So over the years, my relatives thought that that was a Shiva Linga only, and they were even the Pandits were worshipping it as Shiva. So 3 years back, one of my colleagues who's a historian, she visited the temple and she was the first one to tell us that this is not a Shiva temple, like not a Shiva shrine. It is a since then I have been looking for experts to guide me further because nobody is believing her. Like in my household or the community or the temple priest also. According to them, the linga has been stolen and this is the base which is remaining.
Yes.
So they interpret it that way. So
Yes.
how do we, is there a way to decode this, like, whether it is a Shakti pit or whether the linga was there, it was stolen? Because according to my grandmothers and everybody, they have seen it always like the yoni, not a linga, but the priest tell that the linga was stolen, so it's the yoni which is there.
Yes. One practical question is, do you find the hole at the center of the pita?
Yes.
Is there?
Yes.
If it is there, it is possible because yoni and linga, they are separate. Even while constructing a Shiva linga, they are constructed, chiseled separately. And the lingam consists of, according to Shaiva Agamas, 3 levels. 8, then 4, then the circular, cylindrical one. So Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra Bhaga. So Rudra Bhaga is called Puja Bhaga, which is visible outside. Whereas two-thirds go inside that hole. So if there is hole, it's possible that the linga portion has been stolen or taken away. Because it is possible. Because it is very much possible because they are separate. They are joined. There are rituals how they are joined to be joined. So the separate one. Then it is a Shakti Pitha that concept is nothing to do with the Shaiva Siddhanta, Shaiva Agamas. It is a separate one where Shakti is the supreme one. And Shiva plays a subservient role, as we have seen in the Dakshina Kali images. So that is entirely different system. But still they need Shiva because Shiva is Shakti is superior to Shiva. To show that concept, that philosophical notion, they conceive such images. But that is a different one. But that is different.
Yeah, so I'm going to get the evidence.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesan. We were fortunate to have such a scholarly presentation from a Shaivism scholar. For the benefit of those who have been asking questions outside, this is what is called a Shriyantra. You have an intricate sequence of triangles, and each set of triangles has 2 triangles together. The downward facing triangles are called the Shakti triangles, and the upward facing triangles are called the Shiva triangles. And what is known as David's star, internationally coming from the Jewish understanding and then getting into Christianity and other religions, is actually a pair of these Shiva and Shakti triangles together. And that is what is actually Shiva and Shakti as one. And yin-yang is one way of this complementarity that people talk about. And if you look at yin-yang and Shakti, these 2 triangle sets, in contrast, in yin-yang, the complementarity is actually 2 separate entities becoming the whole. Whereas in this Shiva-Shakti pair, they are intricately interwoven into each other. And their interweaving leads to a bindu. There is a bindu, there is a point at the center of the whole thing. And from the center, from the bindu, if you look at the lotus petals, they very clearly express manifestation from point to outside. And in sadhana, people look at that as there are 2 ways of doing it, from without to within and from within to without. So if you are coming from within to without, you are actually traveling from bindu to the dwaras, the 4 dwaras that you are traveling, or if you are traveling from without to within, you are traveling from the outside, from the cosmos to the center. But the intricate connection between the Shiva and Shakti aspects is in so many layers, in multiple layers. And interestingly, all those who are interested in Shaktiya sadhana, Shakti sadhana, they study Kashmira Shaiva books. The tradition is called Kashmira Shaivism, but the sadhakas are Shaktiya sadhakas. It is possible because the same entity can be looked at from the downward triangles and the upward triangles. If the sadhaka is focusing from the upward triangles in the whole set, this yantra is a Shaivite yantra. This is a Shiva yantra. If the focus is on the downward triangles, it is the Shakti yantra. Actually, I once had a chance of meeting a sadhaka in Trivandrum, a Nambudri originally, but at that time, because of his poverty, he became a tourist guide. He told me that this is also called as Sudarshana Yantra of Vishnu. And he took me to a place inside Ananta Padmanabha Swami temple and showed that it was a similar yantra with small modifications was being used as Sudarshana yantra there. Be that as it may, but the Shiva and Shakti as one, the view of Dr. Ganesan ji is visually represented by this whole cosmic representation of Andanda, Pindanda and Brahmanda. All the three levels have the same configuration represented with this visual.
Is this a 2D representation of Veda?
Yeah, those are all for Archana. For Archana purpose, there is a Bhuprastara and there is a Meru Prastara of the same. And the Meru Prastara, three-dimensional representation of the same is called Meru Prastara. A two-dimensional representation of the same on a copper plate is called Bhuprastara.
I just want to share a small thing. Whoever wants to see this Sri Chakra, my hearing has gone there.
Okay, so we have to bring a microscope.
No, you can just take it out.
Oh, we don't want to trouble you so much. You see.
This is handover for my mother-in-law.
Okay, I'll arrange a queue line. Each one will come and watch the Sri Yantra there. Wonderful, great actually, yeah.
Actually, this is Sri Yantra, it's the center one, it's Adhomuga Trikona. So with male deities, usually that will be this Urdhvamukha Trikona.
Urdhvamukha Trikona, okay. The point? Urdhvamukha Trikona? Okay. Okay, so the whole problem is with Sudarshana. Okay, let us forgive that tourist guide. Okay, so now I am forgiving myself and the tourist guide. Let us stick to Shiva and Shakti union that Dr. Ganesan is talking about. So these digressions, whether Sudarshana is there or not, okay, please. Sudarshana, please go away. Sudarshana has gone. So now Shiva and Shakti, let us be concerned about Shiva and Shakti. So the union of Shiva and Shakti, how it happens in the form of Bindu. Bindu expands into circles. All those who know geometry know that Bindu is the smallest circle and circle is an expanded Bindu. That is how the expansion is happening, and that expansion is in the form of lotus, and that lotus is the favorite of women. It is highly feminine. Lotus is feminine, so it's a feminine yantra. Actually, people look at that as feminine. and it is fertility, it is manifestation, it comes from the center to the periphery, the cosmos coming from the beginning and the beginning becoming ending. There is so much in it. So, but thank you very much, Dr. Ganesan. I just wanted to give a visual representation.